Hey guys, welcome back to my Reddit React YouTube channel. I will be found dead in this room 1 year from today. So I was scrubbing through Reddit the other day because it's been 30 years since I last saw the outside world, and I found this really interesting subreddit called Bad UI Battles. The premise is basically like a bunch of people making intentionally bad user interfaces because we're in hell. I won't harp on it too much because there is a point to this video, but I will share a few of the ones I really liked. For instance, there's this one where you have to scan a QR code to access the page, but the QR code is jumbled up, so you have to solve the puzzle to scan it. Bonus points because there's no auto snap, so it's positively nightmarish to actually complete. Or this one where you enter your name by telling the program how many letters there are in it and then submitting individual .txt files with the individual letters of your name in them. I like this one in particular, not just because of the Sisyphean nature of the task, but also because it has a gross baby's first webpage from the 90s sort of design, which probably works for something like this. Then my favorite is this one, Passwordle, where you get told if every character of your password is or isn't in the correct password in the sort of style of, you know, that eponymous word game everyone is playing. Bookworm adventure. There's more, but if I keep doing this, my channel will actually be a Reddit React channel, and I haven't done that since my Hammer video essay, and I'm never going back there. Except maybe I will if I run out of ideas, which is happening soon. So anyway, I figure to myself, how can I contribute to the canon of bad UI design? At first I thought about just making something in like native JavaScript or whatever, but then I had one of my copyright Harrison Gowland deranged ideas. What if there was like a login form, right? But then the CAPTCHA, instead of being like identify boats or whatever, is actually like complete this full video game. The idea was largely inspired by this thing I tweeted the other day and forgot about immediately after, but I started thinking, what kind of game could I make that would be maximally frustrating to have to complete in one session? So I'm making a turn-based RPG. Yes, I'm aware I have like 2 other projects I'm also pretending to be working on right now, but those are just going to have to wait, because this is all I've been able to think about for days now, and now it's going to be everyone else's problem. So here's what I'd like to do. You play as this adventurer, and her objective is to get through all the 3 to 5 worlds and defeat the final boss, who I haven't decided who it is yet. And once you do that, it sends a message to the web page to mark the CAPTCHA complete, and then you can sign in. Here's the twist though. If the CAPTCHA loses focus, or if you change tab or window or whatever else, the CAPTCHA closes and your progress gets lost, so you have to start over. Think of it like the desert bus of Persona 5. That's not a sentence I thought could exist, so I started by opening a Unity project, and as always I forgot to create a Git repository for it because I'm not scared of losing all my progress in the event of a fatal system crash. Now, because game design is hard, I want to try and put off working on the battle system as long as possible. Trying to balance the in-game economy of skill progression, XP, enemy strength, and so on in that fashion is the stuff of my worst nightmares. And I'm not a game designer, so this video is going to be all about the easy stuff, or easier anyway. Game development is hard. So first thing first is making the movement system work. Because it's going to be one of those olden time Pokemon-style RPGs with grid-based movement, I started by adding one of those grids to it. This has the added benefit of unlocking the use of Unity's tile palette, which lets me quickly draw the environment I want. Fortunately, I'd already spent a chunk of money on the Grand Game Dev bundle on the Humble store, so I had access to a bunch of nice-looking tile sets, so I didn't really have to worry about drawing anything, because as anyone with at least one eye can attest, like, I cannot. To make the player move around on my grid, we first pass it a reference to the grid as well as a starting square for it to be on. Then it reads input on the WAS and D keys and the arrow keys, and if it detects that the tile in the given direction is free, it uses the do-tween-tweening library to linearly interpolate the player to that grid square's position and updates the current square. Then you repeat the process ad infinitum until you win. That's the entire game. But obviously we don't want the player to just move around in this tiny island spot, which I am creatively calling North Island. I'm not really worrying about narrative stuff at the moment, that can be for episode 2. We don't want the player to be limited to just this area, so I also set up some trigger volumes at exit points on the map so that the camera can move from region to region as the player navigates the game world. There's a script called level that keeps track of what the camera positions for all the parts of the map are, and again, using the do-tween-tweening library moves neatly between them as you play. Then you repeat the process ad infinitum until you win. That's the entire game. So that's cool and all, but it would be nicer, I think, if we could populate this world with other people. For Jean-Paul Sartre, hell is other people, but in this project, hell is trying to get a WebGL Unity build to interface with a website. Thank you for coming to this philosophy deep cut. I will be found dead in this room in 6 months. So fortunately, as with all game design problems I face when working in Unity, the solution is buying things on the Unity Asset Store. As it happens, a while ago for a separate project, I bought Pixel Crush's dialogue system, which is an incredibly versatile and robust dialogue system used in games like Disco Elysium and, more importantly, the chronicles of trying to log into this website, a game which critics agree exists. In fact, the only thing I need to add to make the cave steward on the first island work is a custom playmaker bit which changes which direction she's pointing depending on what way the player is facing. And then after that, it's as simple as making a call to a dialogue system trigger and we're off to the races. What's that? Why didn't I use the dialogue system I built an X node for this project? Because anyway, we now have a working NPC system. We can reuse that system with a couple of extra playmaker nodes to make treasure chests, like this one, which gives the player 100 gold that they can wisely invest in Terracoin, because the line only goes up unless it doesn't. But what can the player use their gold on? Well, that's an excellent question that I don't feel like answering. Thanks for watching. No, so I also want there to be a shop system in this game. It only makes sense. It's an RPG, so it stands to reason that as the game progresses, you can buy equipment and consumable items to give yourself an advantage in combat. To do that, I set up two new scripts. Shop, which handles displaying the shop UI itself, and Shop Template, which will basically just be data that tells each shopkeeper what goods to sell. This first one, Stan of Stan's General Store, will sell the entry-level stuff. A short sword for people who want reasonable damage output at a reasonable speed, a heftier sword for people who want to go for more of a tank build, and a stick if you want to lose the game. There's no way to sell stuff yet, and I haven't decided whether I'll put one in, but for now you're able to buy things until you run out of money. I also want to add like stock levels, so like he runs out of stock of stuff if you keep buying them. He won't run out of sticks though. Also, I know I wasn't going to get into narrative stuff, but I quite like the idea of having all the shops in the game just being Stan's General Store, and as you talk to Stan throughout the game, his life just gets steadily worse and worse. Like the bank is foreclosing on his store, so you need to buy a bunch of his sticks or he won't be able to stay in business, and then depending on how many sticks you buy, you might end up getting the stick ending, which is like the dog ending in Resident Evil. So we're almost done with the feature list for today, but one other thing I wanted to add was fast travel. I'm not going to have like Skyrim or Elden Ring style fast travel necessarily because I don't really vibe with that, but I do like the idea of having like fast travel points in the world that you can use to move back and forth. I'll add actual UI later because like having it all be in this tiny dialogue box is going to be ironically pretty bad user experience when we scale this system up, but for now it works fine. You can teleport from one teleporter to the other, and thanks to the power of Unity post-processing and this shader I bought from the Unity asset store, I think it looks pretty good too. It works more or less in the same way as the moving from region to region system as far as the camera goes. We didn't take much code to actually implement, and that's all I've got. Next time, blocking out the rest of the world with the tiles, neatening up the UI for the teleport system, and maybe we'll actually like make battles work. That might be fun, I think. Oh yeah, and I guess you'd probably like to see it working on an actual website. Well, here it is. We did it, Reddit.